Right, I've got another guest now that I need to speak to. Thank you so much for waiting very, very patiently. So, Anton, how do I pronounce your surname, Anton?
Antonarenko.
Antonarenko, thank you so much. And you are a filmmaker.
Yes, so I made a documentary on the Fleetwood to Knott End Ferry called End to End. So I basically, a couple of years ago, my mum moved to Cleveleys. I'm originally from Stockport, and I moved in after I lived in London for a bit, and I moved back home. And then I explored a few of the areas. I'd never been to Fleetwood, heard of it, and I just fell in love with the place. And one of the elements of Fleetwood I found was the Fleetwood to Knott End Ferry, which is still running to this day.
That's amazing. Tell me about the charm then. What did you fall in love with, Anton?
Just the history, the architecture, you know, and how this kind of was, you know, the size of these streets and the buildings that are here and everything. And the thing is, in particular, the ferry is kind of this last living piece of history that's still going to this day, that links us to the past, where everything else has kind of disappeared, sadly. The fishing industry, the shipping industry, and everything else has kind of gone by the wayside. We don't have a train station anymore, but that's kind of the last link to the past that millions of people have undertook.
Where on earth do you start when it comes to making a film? It sounds like it was a big project.
Talking to people. So the first place I went to was actually the museum. So there was Zara Ledbetter, who was one of the people who was one of the curators of the museum, who was very helpful. Then I talked to Tony Cowell, who's the skipper of the Fleetwood to Knott End Ferry. He's absolutely lovely. I recommend talking to him. He's absolutely brilliant. Then I went over, I wanted to cover the Knott End side and see the impact as well over there. So I talked to Stuart Ward at the Bourne Arms pub. And then lastly was Angela Norris, who's a local author. I literally messaged her 2 days before filming because I only just found her book, and then I just was like, can we interview you, can we talk to you? And then also Sean Stefani, who owns the Fleetwood Ferry Cafe, and seeing the impact it would have. A key thing to say is that the Fleetwood to Knott End Ferry could disappear next year. I don't think a lot of people are aware. Because the contract that was signed in 2018 is coming up for renewal. And obviously we've had a whole pandemic, the cost of living crisis. So basically it could end next year. And I don't think a lot of people are aware and kicking up enough of a fuss about it. So if you've not been on the ferry, please do go on, because it could very well disappear, and that could be another chapter of Fleetwood's history confined to the past.
When you were talking to all these people and learning about the history of it and bringing it up to present day, what did you learn about it, and what do people think of the ferry? People
are very passionate about the ferry. Because it is, you know, it's been a mainstay of the town. You know, there's people who spoke to me who went to school on it. You know, I mean, imagine a school commute going on a boat, hey? It
just sounds from so long ago, doesn't it? I went to school on a ferry.
Yeah, so it's been a mainstay. There's people who ran the ferry who had, you know, whose ancestors ran the ferry as well. And as I say, it's this pivotal thing where people who are in their 80s and 90s still taking their grandchildren on it, who can remember when their father ran it or someone worked on it and stuff. So it's been a mainstay. You know, there's been an official ferry service since 1894, and before that it was a lot more of a casual affair since 1841. It was kind of like a taxi rank for boats coming by and everything. So it's been a mainstay of this town, and I think if it was to disappear in 2026, it would be a very profound blow to both sides of the river. So people are so passionate, they love it, and people have come up and asked me, is it going to go, and I said, I don't know, but please keep telling people about it, please come down, and if you've not been on the Fleetwood to Knott End Ferry, please do come and have a ride, because it may be the first and last one you take.
When you finished the film and watched it back, what did you think?
I think it is kind of a love letter to this place and a love letter to the ferry, and I think the thing is that it's also personal as well. So Tony Cowell, who is the skipper of the ferry, a key thing wanted to capture was also a bit of personality about him, and he certainly brings that across. He took over the ferry after he had a severe accident while at sea, where he used to work as fisherman for many, many years. An engine room axe fell on top of him, and basically that really severely damaged him for many, many years, and he managed to gain a recovery. Doctors told him he'd never go back to sea again. Of course, they were wrong. and he's been running the ferry for 20 years, nigh on 20 years. Yes.
What a story. If anybody wants to see it, Anton, where can they watch that?
So if you want to watch End to End, it is on the Ciento Films YouTube channel. You can just search in End to End on YouTube and it'll come up there. And yeah, please do come and ride the ferry, because it could seriously disappear next year in 2026. Please do.
Anton, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sharon.
You're more than welcome. Anton there, local filmmaker, and it's called End to End. And if you look for that, you can find it on YouTube.
Yes, that's correct.
Absolutely spot on. Day 3 today of the coastal camper van.
Let's move on. BBC Radio Lancashire.
So we are talking about the Knott End Ferry, and a petition has been set up to support the continuation of the historic Fleetwood to Knott End Ferry service. The contract to maintain and run the ferry is due to expire in April 2026. There are concerns about whether it will continue. Currently run by Wyre Marine Services using the vessel Wyre Rose, the ferry crosses the River Wyre in about 5 minutes or so and can carry up to around 35 passengers. Nothing about his future has yet been announced, but campaigner Anton Arenko is keen to show the level of support there is for the ferry. He's behind the petition and has even made a documentary film about the ferry called End to End. Reporter Paul O'Gorman is live there at the site in Fleetwood for us this morning. Paul, good morning.
Yeah, hiya, George. You know, it's always a moment when you talk about the Fleetwood, the Knott End Ferry. I mean, let's be honest. It ranks alongside legends like the mythical tale of Excalibur, the Knights of the Round Table, and it can be seen sometimes through the mist, a little bit like the Loch Ness Monster, or is that just an old in the tube? Making it short but no less epic crossing of the River Wyre from here at Fleetwood to Knott End, that mythical land overseas. Now, the Wyre Rose crosses the ferry, the river here, as you say, in about 5 minutes, with about 35 passengers on board. But could all this, rather like the legend of King Arthur, be about to be consigned to history? Well, Anton Arenko has begun a campaign to show the level of support for the ferry, and he's with me, quayside here in Fleetwood now. Anton, I'm not wrong, am I? The Knott End Ferry, it is a boat it's the stuff of legend, isn't it?
Yeah, the current service has been operating since 1894, but it goes back way before that. Since 1841, basically not long after the town was founded, there were casual boats that were ran by the Croft family. So it's been an intrinsic part to the area and to the town. And yeah, it's had everything. It survived a couple of wars. It even was hijacked in 1974 by...
It was what?
It was hijacked. Yeah, the ferry was hijacked.
Go on, tell us more about that.
So in 1974, some guy from Burnley thought it would be a bright idea. He had a girlfriend living in northern France to seemingly hijack the ferry. Now, I don't know if he knew his geography, but he wasn't a very good skipper, because literally he got 8 miles down the road from here, ended up at North Pier in Blackpool, and basically, unfortunately, put the boat out of action, so they had to call another one in. He was subsequently arrested, as you can imagine.
You've even made a film about this, haven't you?
Yeah, so what inspired me to get involved with the ferry and start this petition to save it from potential closure next year, I made a documentary called End to End about the Fleetwood to Knott End Ferry, and it follows the past, present and future of it. I worked with the local museum, the Fleetwood Museum, and I worked with the ferry crew, most notably Tony Cowell, who's the skipper of the ferry, a couple of local businesses, the Bourne Arms in Knott End, the Ferry Cafe here in Fleetwood, and finally local author and historian Angela Norris, who wrote a whole book about it, and her book was great research for me.
And there's great affection for it round here. It certainly, it goes without saying. But I'm interested to know, why have you started this campaign to save it? I mean, how is the service under threat?
So basically, in order to operate the service, there is a subsidy which is supplied by Wyre and Lancashire County Council more broadly. It's a subsidy, I believe, of £80,000 a year, and it basically helps cover the running costs, the maintenance and everything. Now, at the time that the contract was first signed in 2018, obviously the cost of living has absolutely spiraled. The cost of fuel and repairs and everything has just skyrocketed. And also the passenger number dip during COVID also really impacted the ferry as well. Because basically the end of this contract was to say, well, the ferry can run on its own steam, and unfortunately it still struggles. And the thing is that what I don't get is that we subsidize buses in this country, even though, in some places no one's hardly riding them. And I think that's great, because, it's the end of the day, it's a public service, and Yes, of course. Some people say, "Oh, it's a tourist attraction and everything." No, it's not. People do use this, particularly like older members of the community on the Knott End side of the river. They come over to Fleetwood because there's no banks left. They've all closed, like in many parts of the country, particularly small towns. There's no banks. There's no supermarkets really. So I think if it was to go, it would isolate a lot of people. And also, as I said in the petition when I set it up on the actual page, this is an area with low investment, low economic opportunities, and I think for Fleetwood, which has lost its railway, it's lost its port, its shipping fleet. We used to have 3 lighthouses, only town in the world. Now we've only got 2. We've lost everything, and I think if this is lost, I think a lot of people would be very sad about it. And
that said, though, there's been no indication from Lancashire County Council, from Wyre Council. The contract's not up till April next year. That's ages off it yet. I mean, I would imagine that with everything going on in the councils, they might not even have thought about it yet. So, aren't you worrying unduly at this stage?
No, I think I'm actually being foresightful, because if you think, I know, this isn't not till April, but I'm making this giving awareness to the council ahead of time. I understand the council and I appreciate the work that they do. They have to plan for schools, they have to plan for social care, roads, everything. They've got a lot of things to care about, and I'm trying to tell them that this is an important piece of infrastructure and that it needs to be saved, because it's a piece of heritage and it's a piece of history, and as well as being, vital for the area.
Well, thank you for talking to us this morning. As a tram goes past, Joe, all signs of Fleetwood. The seagulls have gone quiet for a moment as well. But finally, if somebody's listening to this now and they do want to join the campaign, how can they do that?
Yeah, literally, if you go to change.org, you can find the Fleetwood to Knott End Ferry Save Our Ferry petition, and it should be on there. We're currently at just over 2,100 signatures, and just as many more as possible would be great. And like I say, it's just to get awareness for the council to say this is important, and when they do start to make decisions for the next financial year, to say, let's save this thing and let's keep this thing going.
Yeah, and I can tell you, Joe, how important it is for some people. I remember when I was a child, I came here with, I was tiny, came with my little sister, and we went on the boat across the Knott End. There was a little amusement arcade, and we had a look round and all this kind of stuff. And it's not very far across if you've never actually been here. I remember we were at the other side. We'd done what we were doing, and I was coming back down to the water, and as a family, we were going to get back on the boat, and a chap shouted from here, from Fleetwood, not very far away. He said, "There's no boat, there's not enough water." And you heard him clear as anything. And as kids, we're going, "Oh, Mum, how long do we have to wait now?" But I tell you, it would absolutely be missed, because in my adult days now, if you do have to drive to the other side, it's a long drive. It is. So